At one time, Aslan Usoyan was one of the wealthiest and most powerful gangsters in Russia. A man who was respected by everyone, from the street thugs to the political elite. People often romanticize gangsters and mafia figures. Pablo Escobar, John Gotti, El Chapo, The Godfather. Russia had their own version of The Godfather. Aslan Usoyan was born in February of 1937. He barely survived the war and by age 16 began doing robberies. At 18, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. While he was serving his sentence, Hassan was recognized by the high-ranking thieves in law and proposed for membership. Shortly after, he became a member of the organization, given the nickname Hassan. At age 22, he was sentenced to an additional 5 years in prison for another robbery that went wrong. After being released, Hassan put together a strong crew and made sure that he had authorities on his payroll. His crew then began doing robberies, fraud, and just about anything else that could make money. By 1968, Hassan's influence grew all over Russia. He had illegal and legal businesses in almost every region of the country. In 1986, Hassan was arrested for fraud and received 15 years in prison. During this bid, he would do time in multiple Russian prisons, where he would meet powerful and respected Russian mobsters. Through his political connections, Hassan was able to secure an early release. This time, Hassan kept himself surrounded by a team of security made up of hitmen. One of these hitmen was the famous Russian contract killer named Vladimir Volkov, known in criminal circles as Wolf. Hassan also had very powerful friends in the organization, such as Vyacheslav Ivankov, also known as Yaponchik. In the Thieves-in-Law organization, Yaponchik had an extremely high position and was responsible for overseeing something called Upshak. Every member of the organization sends a percentage of their earnings to the Upshak. In turn, this money is used to take care of members who are currently in prison. When Yaponchik left for New York City to set up shop, he left Hassan in charge of the Upshak. With that, Hassan's status in the underworld grew immensely. Shortly after, a conflict broke out between Hassan and the Aganov brothers, Vladimir and Rudolf, when they accused Hassan of stealing $850,000 from the Upshak. During the war with Hassan and the Aganov brothers, approximately 150 people were killed, many of these being gangland slayings carried out by Wolf. In the end of 1996, Wolf finally tracked down the Aganov brothers and ambushed their car, spraying it with machine gun fire. The two brothers were able to escape with their lives, but barely. They immediately put word on the street that there's a $50,000 reward for anyone that could provide a picture of Wolf. One of Hassan's lieutenants, Vanya Karakazyan, was leaving his house in 1997 when a police car pulled up and two men dressed in police uniforms arrested him and placed him in the back of the car. They drove him out of the city to a farm where he was viciously tortured and ultimately drowned in cement while he was still alive. The next person the brothers hit was Eddie Moscow. Eddie was in charge of Hassan's mineral water business. Hassan knew he had to quickly replace Eddie before the brothers took over the business as well as the region in Russia where the business was located. He decided to put in Alexander Kharashov. Kharashov was there for about a year before he was gunned down leaving his house. By this point, the police were getting extremely desperate to interrogate Hassan, but they had no reason to arrest him. In 1998, they caught up with him at an airport and detained him. They planted drugs on him and used that as an excuse to bring him in for questioning. Hassan gave up no information and was eventually released, but he gave the police his word that he would put an end to the bloodshed. Hassan knew that Rudolf, the older brother, was the one that was actually running things. Without him, the younger brother Vlad would not be able to run the family. In the end of '98, Rudolf's car was ambushed by a man firing a grenade launcher. Once again, Rudolf would narrowly escape with his life. The younger brother Vlad vowed to get revenge, but his lifeless body would be found in the trunk of a car just a few months later. Once the war with the brothers was over, Hassan took over their businesses, legal and illegal, and the area where they were operating from. By this point, Hassan owned multiple hotels, banks, casinos, and restaurants. Before long, Hassan got into another major conflict with a very powerful gangster named Tariel Aniani. Aniani and Hassan were having a major dispute over who was going to control the labor rackets for the preparation of the 2014 Sochi Olympics. Aniani had an extremely large family comprised mostly of special forces, ex-military, and ex-law enforcement. Due to rumors, Hassan felt that this meeting was going to be a setup and decided not to show up. The meeting was held on a private boat and was comprised of approximately 60 of the highest-ranking thieves in law from every region of Russia. Shortly after the meeting got underway, the boat was boarded by Russian SWAT teams. Some people even jumped in the water to try to evade capture, but they were ultimately taken into custody. Russia's use of force laws are a little different from ours. When Russian police make an arrest like this, they usually interrogate the suspect on the spot with a video camera and get a confession one way or another. This video was taken of Aniani when he was arrested during the meeting on the boat. From this point on, Aniani would blame Hassan for the SWAT team raid and declared war on his entire family. Many of Aniani and Hassan's top lieutenants would die as a result of this war. But Aniani knew as long as Hassan had a powerful friend like Vyacheslav Ivankov, there was no way that Aniani would win this war. One evening, Ivankov was at a restaurant having dinner with two of his bodyguards in Moscow. When they stepped out to have a cigarette, Ivankov was shot multiple times with a sniper rifle. The restaurant's CCTV footage catches the bodyguards dragging Ivankov back into the restaurant to safety.
In hospital after being shot in northern Moscow. Nicknamed Little Jap, U.S. prosecutors referred to Vyacheslav Ivankov as the godfather of Russian organized crime. Moscow police believe he probably fell victim to his professional activities. Aged 69, he has undergone surgery after the incident on Tuesday night when he was injured in the stomach.
He died several months later at the hospital. When Aniani was sentenced to 10 years in prison in July of 2010, everyone thought the war between him and Hassan would calm down. However, in September of 2010, as Hassan was leaving his son's house, an attempt was made on his life.
A suspected Russian criminal mastermind is being treated in a Moscow hospital after an attempt on his life. Nicknamed Grandpa Hassan, he is thought to have fallen victim to a gangster war right in the center of the capital. RT's Yegor Piskunov has more from the crime scene.
The incident happened here on this quiet side street in the very heart of Moscow at around 8 p.m. on Thursday evening. Aslan Usoyan, also known as Grandpa Hassan, thought to be a major criminal lord in Russia, arrived to reportedly visit his son, who lives in this apartment building over here. And as Grandpa Hassan, accompanied by his bodyguard, were trying to enter the building, walking through this door over here, the shots were fired. The bodyguard went down first, and according to reports from the witnesses, Grandpa Hassan actually tried dodging the bullets, but ended up getting one in his stomach. That's when their driver ran out and called the ambulance. The hitman was firing the shots from one of those windows on the third floor of that building. The distance between these two houses is really small, and when the authorities came, they saw that that window was open, and when they checked the apartment, they found a weapon which is thought to have been used. Both men were rushed to hospital, but soon authorities announced that Grandpa Hassan had died. Later, they denied this information, saying that they gave out false reports on purpose in order to prevent a second possible assassination attempt. And it is thought that Grandpa Hassan controls most of the organized criminal groups in Russia and in the CIS. Well, there's already one version of why. Allegedly, it's because of this major war going on between two giant gangster groups, and they're currently fighting over some sport facilities in southern Russia. Grandpa Hassan was really close to a notorious gangster lord known by the name of Yaponchik, who was assassinated back in 2009. Grandpa Hassan was basically his right-hand man. Since 2009, we've heard various reports of numerous gangster wars and shootings and assassinations both in Russia and in Western Europe as well, in Switzerland or Spain, when bodies are found of people suspected of being connected to this or that gang or criminal group in Russia.
After being stabilized, Hassan was taken to a different part of Russia to receive medical treatment. When he returned to Moscow, he continued to control his criminal empire. He made no secret of where he lived, and he would eat at his favorite restaurant every day. On January 16, 2013, when Hassan arrived to have lunch, his killer was waiting for him in a window across the street with a sniper rifle. The first bullet struck Hassan in the neck. The second one would hit him in his back. Just to be sure, the killer took 5 more shots through the restaurant door.
One of the Russian mafia's most infamous figures, Grandpa Hassan, has been killed right here in Moscow. He was shot in broad daylight right in the city centre. RT's Alexei Rashevsky now joins me live with details on this. Alexei, thanks for coming in so quickly on this. Exactly who was this man and what did he do?
Well, Aslan Usoyan, or more often referred in Russia as Grandpa Hassan, has often been compared to Al Capone, but his demise today is more reminiscent of another American gangster, John Dillinger. The man was shot outside his favorite restaurant in central Moscow. The law enforcement agencies have already reported that they have found 6 bullet shells on the scene, believing this was an assassination attempt which proved fatal for Grandpa Hassan. The man with very turbulent history. He has been believed to be running several gambling enterprises as well as involved in drug trafficking and weapons sales. The man was believed to be one of the biggest crime lords in Russia. He also had several attempts on his life before. The most famous, the most recent one was in 2010 when he was shot in the stomach, and for some time the information was circulating that he was actually killed. That was, as later explained, for security reasons. But he survived that. He had a very serious operation, very serious surgery. Now, obviously, it proved fatal for Grandpa Hassan, and he died in hospital without regaining consciousness straight after he was delivered there after being shot in central Moscow today.
So here we are talking about what is essentially a mafia kingpin who perhaps nearly a lifetime of mafia contacts and mafia actions. It might be safe to say that he's made many enemies over the years, but we're also talking, you and I were talking off air about this guy just in the studio earlier, and from what I understand, it was a long-distance sniper shot that took him out. And if that is the case, then who, why, what are the motives here?
Well, it is now being determined by the law enforcement agencies whether this was a long shot or it was a close shot. We have conflicting reports on that. The only thing we've heard is those gun shells which were found supposedly belong to a sniper rifle. And this is definitely not the first time that a huge high-profile criminal lord is being assassinated in Russia. So the law enforcement agencies are now looking into a possible version that this is a full-scale gang war which led to the death of Grandpa Hassan.